Today we're going to dive into 3.1. And in 3.1, we're going to start talking about the concepts behind multiplying positive and negative numbers. And they gave us a scenario where we have these runners. And in order for us to think about groupings with a positive negative term, anytime that the runner goes to the right of 0, we're going to think of that as positive. And anytime the runner goes to the left of 0, we're going to think of that in the negative term. Now, there's also going to be time after and time before. So whenever we think of time after, we're going to think of that in the positive. And anytime that we're thinking it, where will they be before, we're going to think of that as the negative. So the first problem that we have here is that Han passes the 0 point running 5 meters per second to the right. Okay, so we have to the right here. Where will he be 6 seconds later? So if we're thinking about this, we've got 5 and we've got 6, and it's 5 meters per second, and there's 6 seconds. So I can think of that even as like that's 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus one more is 5, right? Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups of 5, which is going to represent this rate here of 6 seconds later. And when I add all these up, I'm going to get positive 30. And I'm going to remember my unit is in meters. Now, the numbers in a second rate for this is going to be 6 times 5 is going to equal 30 meters. Okay? All right, so now let's go on to B. Aurelia passes the 0 point running to the left at 6 meters per second. Where will she be 8 seconds later? Okay, so again, if we're thinking about they're running to the left at 6 seconds per meter, this is going to be a negative 6. And we're going to have 8 groups of that negative 6. It's as if they're going 1 second is negative 6 meters, and here's another second, and another second, and so forth. So I can think of that as negative 6 plus 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 negative 6. Let's count. Double check how many I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, one more. Negative 6. Okay. So this again is 8 groups of negative 6. And when I add all of these up, I'm going to get negative 48 meters. Okay. So when I am thinking about this problem, the one thing that is kind of important to remember here is that I'm running to the left, and again, I'm looking at 8 seconds later, which is going to be in the positive. So I have this positive 8 times a negative 6. So now let's go ahead and go over here to C. It says that Dwayne passes the 0 point running 4 meters per second to the right. Okay, so this is going to be a positive. Where was he 6 seconds earlier? Okay, so this actually tells me I'm going to be thinking as in the negative sense here. Okay, so I've got 4 meters per second to the right, 6 seconds earlier. So that means technically that could be like 0 minus 4 minus 4 minus 4 minus 4 minus 4 and minus 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Double checking. Okay? And this would actually put me at negative 24 meters. Okay. This is also 6 groups of 4. But remember that this is 6 seconds earlier. So this is negative 6 times 4 is going to equal negative 24 meters. Okay. So now let's take a look at our last problem here. Tori passes the 0 point running to the left at 5 meters per second. Where was she 7 seconds earlier? So 5 meters to the left, this would be a negative 5. Now, 7 seconds earlier, would also technically be a -7. So now we come up with kind of the most complex type that we have, which is going to be a negative times a negative. So let's dive into this. If I were to think about this, this would be, I'm starting at the 0, minus -5, minus -5, minus -5, minus -5, minus -5, and minus -5. One more. Go over from space. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Now the other thing we know is that this minus -5 equals +5, correct? So this, when I'm thinking about all of these are going to be 7 groups of now +5, which is going to equal 35 meters. So we have -7 times -5 equals a +35. So we can begin to kind of think about this as a negative times a negative gave us this positive number. And this is kind of a hard thing to conceptualize, but in this problem here, we're thinking she's going to the left. So there's as -5, but again, 7 seconds earlier. So it's almost like we're going back and then forward, and then back and then forward. And again, it's kind of tricky to think of, but in this problem, we're able to start to visualize these runners going left and right about the 0 on our number line. So really what I want you to think about are, in this problem, we had a negative times a negative equals a positive. In this problem, we had a negative number times a positive number, and it gave us a negative number. Over here, we had a positive times a negative, and that gave us a negative. And up here, we had a positive times a positive gave us a positive. And we're going to begin to start thinking about these rules when it comes to multiplying numbers.